Hey, what's up everybody? Retro Gaming Guy here. Today in this video, we're going to unbox, demo, and review this handheld console right here. This is the Trimui Smart Pro handheld video game console. So we're going to unbox this. We're going to take a closer look at what it offers us in terms of functions, features, layout, design, all that good stuff. And then we're going to give it a full performance test. So let's dive into it and get started. All right, guys, here we have our handheld video game console right here. Let's go ahead and start unboxing this. So right off the bat, I see a micro SD card holder. No micro SD card in here. Hopefully it's already inserted into the handheld, and that's just providing us with, a little holder for it should we decide to remove it. We have a nice layout of all the controls and all that good stuff. So I'm going to keep that on hand just to reference that as we comb through this. Now I'll set that aside. Let's see what cable is included here. We have a USB Type-C to USB-A. So that's going to be how we actually power this. Make sure that we charge it up. Let me check the back side. Sometimes they stick some stuff in here on the bottom. Oh, that seems to be glued in there. All right, cool. So let's open up the actual handheld itself. So we don't have, it looks like no screen protector or anything like that, which is okay. Nice little foam insert to keep it nice and safe and secure. All right, so this definitely has a PSP style vibe to it. Very much in line with that same sort of layout. We have dual analog sticks here. Now there's no button function to these, so we won't have an R3 or L3 functionality to those, but still they feel quite nice from what I can tell. We have a menu button down here. We have a start and select over here below the right analog stick, A, B, X, and Y 4-button configuration, and we have our D-pad over here. So let me see how everything kind of feels, and then of course we have our shoulder and trigger buttons up here. Trigger buttons feel a little funny in all honesty, just something I'm noticing here. Not great action on there. Definitely feels like there's a sweet spot right in the center. If you hit it on the edge, it's a little harder to engage. Down here, no functionality really at all. You really have to hit it dead center. Not a big deal, but certainly worth mentioning. I always like buttons that, no matter where you hit it, because not everybody's fingers are going to line up perfectly. No matter where you hit it, you want it to be responsive. And here it definitely feels like you have a sweet spot that you really need to make sure that you line your fingers up with in order to really engage those. But obviously I'm not in game yet, but that's just something I'm noticing. The A, B, X, and Y seems to be pretty good. They're pretty low profile. If we take a look on the side, you can see they barely lift up a little bit there. So, still feel responsive though. They're just low profile. So, you're not going to get that, big action on the movement on there. D-pad feels pretty good. Now let's take a look up here at the top. We have our Type-C connection here. That's how we're going to charge this. We have our power button located over here, plus and minus for volume control. Now we have a bunch of things down here on the bottom. So we have our audio jack right here, so you can plug your headphones in over there, micro SD card slot, which does have the micro SD card in there. In fact, I want to see if we can actually get that out. There we go. It's recessed in there quite nicely. So this is a 128 gigabyte micro SD card. So we should have a decent amount of stuff on here. Usually we don't get, I've seen a lot of 64 gigabyte micro SD cards in handhelds like this. So I definitely like the fact that there's, that many or that capacity. So we should, in theory, have quite a bit of games on here. And we actually have a power supply Type-C port down here. In fact, this one's up here is for the host. This one is the DC. So that's likely the one that we would actually use for powering. We have a function button down here, which seems to be like a toggle switch. And then what do we have right here? We have a little cover. What is under here? Let's see if we can open this sucker up. Yeah, so I'm not really sure what's in this little door here. It looks like there's a door anyways, unless that's just something for manufacturing. But I'm referencing this, my little cheat sheet, and there's absolutely no indication as to what that is. It's totally blank on that function right there. So yeah, not sure what's in there. Maybe some internal components for the actual handheld. But let me go ahead and remove the little screen protector on here so we don't have as much of a glare. And then we're going to power this on and see what is included on this handheld. But all in all, so far, it definitely seems like a solid option. All right, guys, here we are booted up into our handheld. Now, I like, first off, right off the bat, the way that it lights up around our analog sticks. So this is where we land on here, and we are highlighted under best. So it looks like we're in multi-cartridges here. Not really sure what we're doing in here. Let's go around. So we have some custom collections, it looks like. In fact, there's just, looks like 3 collections in here. We have arcade vertical shooters. We've got FC multi-cartridges. We've got Pokemon collection. and then it just kind of loops around. So lands in best, you can see at the top, but it says that we can actually move through the different options by hitting our L or R buttons up here at the top, so shoulder or trigger buttons. So I'm going to just go ahead and hit the R shoulder button, and this looks like all of our different collections. So let's take a look through here and see what we have. So I see PlayStation right here in the center. We've got, this would be Super Nintendo, Wonder Swan Color. We've got arcade collection, so I assume that's MAME. We have Atari Lynx. We have Atari 2600, Atari 7800. We've got Capcom System 1, 2, and 3 in here. We've got some Dreamcast in here. We've got FB Neo. We've got Family Computer, Disk System. We've got Game Gear. We've got Game & Watch, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color. Oh, here's MAME. So the other one was just classic arcade. So good to know. Sega Mega Drive, Master System, N64. All right. NDS, which would be Nintendo DS, Neo Geo Pocket, PC Engine. We've got PGM over here, Pico 8, and PSP. So really impressive. I'm not sure what the capabilities are in terms of what this can accurately and effectively perform, but we're going to find out. Now, let's go through here again and let's see. So we have some apps in here, USB storage. All right. Let's see. We have NetPlay. Well, it says NetPlay, but I don't see anything in there. And we have our settings in here. So we can go into our display. Let's actually kick up the brightness a little bit. All right. So that made a pretty decent difference there. LED brightness. Okay. All right. So that did, let's see if that goes down. Sweet. So if you are finding that this is distracting, maybe you're playing in the dark and it's a little too bright, you can come in here and adjust the brightness on that. I think that's awesome. So I like it super bright. I think that it's not, going to impact me negatively or anything like that. So B is going to be your back button. A is going to be the button that you make selections with. You can connect this over to your Wi-Fi. You can go in and remap your keys. Now we have themes in here too. Well, it looks like there's just one theme. Okay. You could probably add more if we connect over to the internet. Now, we also have a favorite collection over here, which I jumped over, it looked like. So let's go back over to our game collections and let's take a look through here and see exactly how many titles we get for each collection. So let's go into arcade. So inside arcade, we have 123 titles in here. So let's take a look at how they're laid out. And here we get a text list on the left-hand side. Right-hand side, we have some box art. So I think that goes together quite nicely, actually. This is a smaller capacity card. Seems to have a lot on it, though. So we don't have video previews, but I'm not mad at it. Certainly looks well put together and polished. I do see that there are some duplicates thrown in here. Now, they are different versions, but certainly worth mentioning. Like you see here, version 100, version 102. Up here we have a Japanese release, international release, so that's likely European. This one up here would be Japanese. So it does look like we do have, definitely some, and here's another one, US release for this one, Japanese release. Some people are going to love that. Some people are going to find it to be just unnecessary to have, multiple versions of the same game. And we're seeing a lot of duplicates here. But, all in all, it does look to be put together quite nicely. So I'm going to back out of this collection. Let's see. Atari Lynx, 77 games. And we can see not every title has box art scraped for it. And that's probably because this is a European release. And the other ones that I saw were European releases too. So it's going to be a little bit split on that. But all in all, it looks like the majority do have, box art on here, which is, a nice way to put it together. So let's back out. I'm not going to jump into each of these just to keep this video somewhat short, but Atari 2600, let's see how many titles we have in here. We've got 704. Okay. And it doesn't look like these are scraped. Well, no, some of them are. Some are, some aren't. And again, it looks like those European ones don't have any scraped data, but the US ones certainly do. So we do have, again, duplicates all over. We have this one's a duplicate, that's a duplicate, that's a duplicate. So I would like to see, honestly, just personal preference here, just US releases. I don't think that we need specifically a French release and then a European release as well for the same title. I suppose, if you're in one of those countries, then you might disagree with me, but just seems a little unnecessary to have all of those, but not going to get too picky here. So let's go over to Atari 7800 here. And for this collection, we have 123 titles over here as well. Capcom System 1, we should have like 4, yep, there we go, 49. In fact, that's actually a little bit high. It should be closer to 30. But I see right here, we do have some hacks in here. So we have Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, the world release. We have a hack for it. So there are hacks in here. There's also, of course, different versions. So this is a Japanese release over here, world release, Japanese hack. So definitely some interesting stuff in here, but I'm not mad at it for having hacks, that's for sure. So Capcom System 2, we have 36 titles in here. Definitely a big fan of the Capcom games too, like The Punisher, for example. Love that game. Let's back out. Capcom System 3, we have 10 titles in here. So let's see. So definitely, you know, a couple of duplicates in here. Asian release, Japanese release. That's a different one there. That's a different one there. All right. Dreamcast. How many Dreamcast games? I'm a big Dreamcast guy myself. 13 titles. That's not bad at all for, you know, this being a smaller, you know, capacity handheld and all that. So some of these are just like the file names here, like Rumblefish. That's going to be a challenge if you're really searching that one out, but if the game works, the game works. All right, so we'll jump back over here later and test out how Dreamcast performs, because Dreamcast is definitely one of those collections that's, you know, on handhelds can be a little bit dicey. FB Neo, we have in here 11 titles. Oh, wait, it's broken down into subcategories. So we have action, action vertical, fighters. Let's go in here. So, oh wow, 169 just in action alone. Action vertical has 5, fighters has 170, flying games 111, flying vertical 188, others 148. All right, so we have a ton. Oh, others vertical, 20 games, racing games, 57 games in there, shooting games, 117 games, shooting vertical, 37 titles, and sport, we have 147 sports games, and we loop back around to action. So that's a massive collection broken up into all of these different categories, which I actually like. I think that's a nice way to be able to locate what you're looking for. So over here, let's see, what do we have for family computer? 222 games, but these are broken down into subcategories as well. So we have 132, 179, 151, 192, 32, 136, 125, 94, 57, and you can see duplicate, 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 duplicate. Oh, excuse me, that's not a duplicate there, different year. But definitely a lot of duplicates in here. So, you know, take the count here, you know, with a grain of salt. Obviously, it's not going to be 100% accurate because there are a lot of duplicates, but still gives you a lot of options. Inside here, 59, we have 108, 65, 244, 84, 23, 135, 10, 117, 339 for S, 191, 38, 15, 84, 10, 21, 23, and 21 over there. Okay, and we have some categories too. All right, interesting. I mean, it definitely, the list goes on here, and then we have games just right out here in the main section. So a lot going on over there, and you can see right there, 3,218 games. I could have just said that right off the bat, but that doesn't load in. Notice how Sega Game Gear doesn't have a count until we actually scan the games in. So 492 games in Game Gear, and then it populates in there on the menu. 54 titles over here for Sega Game & Watch. Game Boy, the original Game Boy, is going to have, once it scans these games, 218 titles. Oh, was there a subcategory? Full collection. Oh, wow. 1,596. And this looks like a lot of European releases and a lot of duplicates too, I will say that. So we are definitely dealing with a lot of duplicates. Game Boy Advance, we have 909 titles, which is pretty accurate. Looks like we have all the Pokemons right off the bat. And I'm not crazy about the fact that these aren't in alphabetical order. It just makes it harder to locate titles when you're searching, but We know that going in at least. So 311 here on the main page. We have the full collection for Game Boy Color, 472. Let's back out. MAME Plus. So we have 403 titles in here. And I'm a big classic arcade guy myself, so the more the better in my opinion. And I'm not seeing a ton of duplicates in this particular one. All right, sweet. Sega Mega Drive, we have 902 titles put together quite nicely. Of course, as soon as I said that, we run out of scraped games, but let's see. Again, it seems to be the European releases for the most part. And if there's any hacks, it's usually going to be, you know, the case where hacks don't have scraped content either. So Master System over here, 291 games. N64, which I'm interested to see how N64 would perform on here because I've had mixed results on handhelds, but we have 109 titles for N64, so we'll be back to test this out. Nintendo DS, we have 14 titles. Looks like a lot of Pokemon, a lot of Mario stuff. Definitely a good selection. Neo Geo, we have 152 titles in here, so you'll find your Metal Slug titles in this collection. Those are definitely the most popular for Neo Geo. Neo Geo Pocket, 128 titles. PC Engine, 412 titles. PGM, 20 titles. Pico 8, 90 titles. And PSP, 48 titles. Wow, I want to actually comb through here a little bit because a lot of times PSP is PSP mini titles, but these actually all seem to be, so far anyways, all full-scale PSP titles. That one is a Japanese release. That's why it doesn't have the box art on there. So yeah, I mean, these are all legit PSP titles. I'm really impressed by this. And 48 in total. Got to see how they perform on here, of course, but I mean, this is pretty impressive. So we scroll through all of those. Let me see. I want to make sure that count is accurate. Hold on. It is. Yeah, all right. Sometimes they'll change like the count on there, so it'll go from like 30 to 40, you know, and only 2 titles have jumped from there. But that's not the case here. So, I mean, they're being 100% legit with the game count here. All right, so we'll back out. Let's jump into, and did we jump into PlayStation? I don't know that we did. 45 PlayStation titles. Looks like some good stuff. Do we have Tekken on here? Got to have Tekken. I'm a huge Tekken guy for PS1. There we go, Tekken 3 right there. So we don't have the other ones, but Tekken 3 is a good one. And we started over here, I think, 304 titles, but this is broken down into sub-collections as well. And if we back out, yeah, 1,194 games in total for Super Nintendo. So, yeah, and Wonder Swan Color, we have 91 titles. All right, so that's the complete tour of what this offers. Now let's test out some games and see what the performance is like on here. All right, so to get out of titles, you're going to hit your menu button over here. We're going to drop down to Exit Game, hit A, and it's going to bring us back out here to our main collection. So that was actually pretty impressive there for PlayStation 1. Let's go out of PlayStation 1, and let's check out, let's find some Donkey Kong maybe in Super Nintendo. And I like that this is in alphabetical order over here. So here you can see we have quite a few Donkey Kong countries, and we have the competition cartridge over here, which is actually pretty cool to have. Let's go to the original one and see what that's all about. So we do have bezels that populate in here to keep that 4:3 aspect ratio. Oh, cool. So we can go into RetroArch and we can actually make this so we use 16:9 aspect ratio if we wanted to. And I'm going to keep it the way that it is by default. I actually like this particular game. It does tend to get a little bit pixelated if you stretch it. So I'm going to keep it exactly as it is, but nice to know that we do have that option. All right, let's try some Dreamcast.
Battle 2, fight!
All right, that was pretty sweet as well. Good experience over there. I'm not experiencing any lags or delays. All right, great experience over there as well. So that was pretty sweet. Let's back out. What else do we have? All right, Ultimate Test. How's N64 on here? And what do we have for N64 titles? A lot of good stuff. Now, Cruisin' World is a tough one to get right on handhelds and just a really tough one to emulate in general. So let's see what we've got going on here for Cruisin' World. One of my favorite classic N64 titles and also classic title for the arcade. Now we'll really get to test out the analog stick here too. Wow, these analog sticks are sick. Really comfortable to use. They're a little bit small, but they're precise. All right, that was pretty incredible, not gonna lie. Really impressed with what the performance was like there. And we seem to have a lot of great titles here. Mario Kart 64, of course, is a classic. Now, no wrestling games, worth mentioning there. Now, those are tough to emulate too, but no WCW, no WWF, nothing at all for wrestling. So that's kind of a bummer, but still, good selection all in all. Let's test out one more. Let's make sure it's not a fluke, although, again, Cruisin' World is a tough one for sure. Let's try some Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. All right, so that was a incredible experience there, honestly, for N64. Usually that doesn't go so well, so really impressed by that. Let's check out PSP. Now, this is definitely the ultimate test. Let's try Ridge Racer 2, which we're going to see if this can handle. All right, guys, this far exceeded my expectations. I picked this up as a budget-friendly option. I like to highlight budget-friendly options here on the channel, but usually with that, it's a trade-off. You have a lower cost associated with it, but you end up with usually shortcomings in performance. That wasn't the case here. Generally, with something in this price point, you're going to be able to get all your retro stuff, your classic arcade, your Mega Drive, your Sega Master System, your NES, Super Nintendo, all that stuff. Game Boy's going to work perfectly fine. Usually where you hit a wall is after PlayStation, so you're not able to usually get into N64, Dreamcast. Well, some titles will work well, but usually it's not a great experience, and then PSP is usually a laggy mess. That wasn't the case here at all, and N64 really blew me away because I use Cruisin' World as my ultimate test for emulators, basically, because it's a tough game to emulate. Usually you'll see screen tearing, lags, delays, audio issues, or if you have crappy controls on your handheld or controller, you'll see overcorrecting constantly when trying to navigate that game because the steering is super sensitive. So that was my ultimate test, and it passed with flying colors. Now, the analog sticks here are relatively small. I did mention that as we unboxed this. It was something that I did notice, but they work extremely well. If you have big thumbs, then you're probably going to have some struggles with them, but they're really sensitive. They're really on point, and I mean sensitive in a good way. You get a great feel for them. You can pinpoint your movement in games. Really a great experience. I love what they offer. I wish they were a little bit bigger and a little bit raised, because if you take a look here, you can see they're almost flush with the surface of the handheld, as are the buttons here. Everything is very low profile, which I actually like. More action and more more of a bounce in my buttons than this typically, but they perform really well. So I can't be too critical because I do like it. I just prefer like a Xbox 360 sort of button configuration where they have a lot of bounce to them. You know, you get a good response every time you hit the button. But with handhelds, everything is generally more compact. So I'm not surprised by that. D-pad was very well put together. A little bit tight, but I seemed to get used to it. And again, I didn't have any issues with this. I like the menu button on the side, so we don't have to rely on hotkey functions, which sometimes you can, especially with the start and select being side by side over here. If that was your hotkey function, I could see hitting both of them at the same time, and then, you know, you would inadvertently exit your game when you didn't really want to do that. So I like the fact that we have the menu button, and that's how we exit titles and go back to our main menu. So really user-friendly. The shoulder buttons I found work extremely well. Trigger buttons are a little bit sensitive, and I mentioned that before, but the trade-off is we really don't use the trigger buttons with most of the titles that are, you know, present on this entire setup here. So I really didn't use them all that often, but they are a little bit crunchy, I would say. They just don't have, you know, great action on them. So keep that in mind. But again, for the titles that we're jumping into, I found that I use the shoulder buttons a lot more, and the shoulder buttons are on point. You can see it doesn't matter if I hit over here, or I hit over here, or I hit dead center. They perform the exact same way, and you could tell just off of the clicking that is coming from this. But with the triggers, not the case. You know, we have good action for the most part in the center, but over here on the edges, you can see I'm wrestling with it, just trying to engage it. So worth mentioning, and they are slightly hinged, which, you know, hinged triggers, they have to be super high-end to work well, in my opinion. And, you know, this is a budget-friendly option, so not great with the triggers, but, you know, it is what it is there. The card being 128 gigabytes offers a lot of games. Now, there are a lot of duplicates on here. I do want to be, you know, totally upfront about that, but even with all the duplicates, it's very easy to navigate. There's a lot of great options here, and there's really, truly something for everybody. So really blown away by the capabilities and performance of this, and just the overall, you know, look and feel to this is amazing. And at that rock bottom price of $79.99, which, you know, isn't super cheap, but when you think about handhelds, most handhelds these days are going for well over $100. I think $79.99 for everything that is included in here is a phenomenal price point. This is definitely a reliable, well put together handheld that I'm surprised is not making more waves in the retro gaming community these days, because this has so much of what I look for in a handheld device: reliability, performance, and excellent price point here. So definitely check it out. I stand behind this 100%. I'm really, again, blown away by everything that this had to offer, because I didn't expect this review to go that way, if I'm being totally honest. So link up here at the top of your screen if you want to get some additional information on what this handheld has to offer. But I'm going to honestly get back in here and play a little bit more N64, because I was having a blast with this. So let me know what you guys thought of this product right here in the comments below. You guys know the deal though. If you enjoyed the content, you found this information helpful, please give me a thumbs up on the video, and of course hit subscribe to stay in the loop for all future videos right here on the Retro Gaming Guy YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.